No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all of those joining us live, wherever you are on the interweb, good evening to you and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. As you can tell by my voice or seeing me on camera, it is Dave Manouk in the host chair. My boy, Ezzy Ginsburg, in my house right below me.
It's happening, Dave. In
the analyst chair. No Drew Mandel tonight. He is not available, but he will be joining us. The trio will be back together. The sum of our parts will all be together, as he will be whole, if you will. So today, you and I are going to focus on the nuts hockey game that we just watched, and we'll try and keep our focus there, and we'll talk to Drew tomorrow on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, which starts at 9 o'clock. So join us for that once we're done here talking about just a wacky, kind of crazy hockey game, a little Southeast Division hate as it was back between the Winnipeg Jets, the Tampa Bay Lightning. It is funny though, don't you think, Ez? And you can give me your thoughts, but I always find it humorous when you watch a game like that and you think to yourself, these teams play each other twice a year. Like, where is this coming from? But there was some clear disdain between Rick Bowness's old team and Rick Bowness's new team. What was your kind of takeaway from tonight's event?
It shouldn't be surprising, I guess, Dave, in the sense that heading into this game, the Jets and the Lightning had almost identical records, right? And clearly, the Lightning are, poised to go on another Stanley Cup run. Like, it's like nobody's talking about them with how well Boston and Carolina and New Jersey has played. And it was mentioned on the broadcast by Dan Robertson and Kevin Sawyer, like, I wouldn't want to play this Lightning team in the first round. Like, can you imagine, Dave, if the first round matchup ends up being the Bruins and the Lightning? Like, we don't know if that's going to be the matchup, but regardless, somebody's going to get the Lightning in the first round. Like, this team's going to make the playoffs. But the Jets were pretty bad in the first period. The second period was much better, but the first period was about as one-sided as you're going to get, right? But we've talked about it so many times. In a one-goal game, if you're able to get a late goal, and the Jets did, obviously, in the first period, like, that's huge. And it came at 4-on-4, and, we love to see 4-on-4 hockey. The Jets are one of the more skilled teams in the league, so they excel at the 4-on-4 hockey and 3-on-3 hockey as well. But, with all these new players coming back, the first period definitely seemed a little bit sloppy, right? Like, Nick Ehlers, I'm not sure if you caught it, Dave, because you were at the arena, but on the broadcast, talking with John Liu, like, Ehlers admitted himself, right? He said, like, it was pretty ugly out there. It wasn't a very good first period, even though he got a pretty decent shot on net that I can remember in the first period. I thought, for the most part, Ehlers was pretty good. Perfetti was out there back in the lineup. He looked good on the power play, looked good out there with Scheifele and Wheeler. So, it just seemed like, to me, like, the Lightning were at least better for 2 of the 3 periods, Dave. I would say, if you were to look at it from an analytical advanced stats point of view, the Lightning, outshot the Jets. They had more possession, more high danger chances, right? But, it was a tie game going into the third period, and it just seemed like the Lightning wanted to keep taking penalties. And even though Kyle Connor took a couple penalties himself, the Lightning, it's rare that you see 2 5-on-3s in one game, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, the Jets capitalized on both, and a good team should capitalize on 5-on-3 opportunities. So I really thought that the Lightning shot themselves in the foot. So the Jets were opportunistic, even though they weren't very good, as I mentioned, especially in the first period, but they keep their winning ways going, 4 wins in a row. And that's a huge game considering it's Friday night and you're getting that many bodies back. So things are looking really good right now for the Jets.
Well, and I like this comment by Matthew Thompson that I put up on the chat. This game had the 2 best goalies from the last 5 years, and neither of them made the 2 best saves of the game. That would be attributable to Pierre-Luc Dubois in the second period, which kept the game tied at 2-2, and of course Dylan DeMello with a miraculous save. It's funny because more often than not we say, how did Connor Hellebuyck make that stop? And generally speaking, Connor Hellebuyck is the one to make the stop, but in this instance, he had some assists from his friends, and that's okay because he's often bailing out the Winnipeg Jets. So for the Winnipeg Jets to bail out 37 occasionally, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But, look, as the game got started, there was some uncertainty. We didn't know how things were going to go. We should probably, do some news of the day, of course, because the Jets lost Michael, although in San Jose, he's back to Mikey Eyssimont. They lost him off of waivers. The Sharks claimed him. We'll talk about the Sharks stealing our image. That's a whole nother image. That's a story for another day.
Well, the reality is Colby Spence is such a good photographer that people just can't resist stealing images, right?
Well, it's funny because my memory bank for the images that Colby and Alex, but mostly Colby, take for us is such that anytime that anything like that happens, I'm like, boy, that picture looks familiar. I'm like, wait a second, that picture looks familiar. Like, familiar because it's our picture.
Well,
So,
our legal team will contact them, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
But it's probably like, look at the Sharks. First thing they did was steal our Wi-Fi, and now they're stealing our images, right?
Exactly. Those damn Sharks. But anywho, that's a story for another day. But the point is, the Moose lost a little bit of depth because, of course, the Jets organization was hoping they'd be able to sneak Michael Eyssimont down to the Moose. And conversely, one thing we saw tonight, which I mean, again, it was interesting. Mike McIntyre, the Winnipeg Free Press, posed this question in the press box tonight. But previously, would we have seen 4 players all return to the lineup in the same game? Nate Schmidt, Blake Wheeler, Cole Perfetti, Nikolai Ehlers. And
I don't think we've ever seen that, Dave, in the 12 years? What is it? 12 years, 13 years that the Jets have been back? I can't remember. Like, it's not just the 4 players coming back. It's 4 significant players, right? It's top 6 forwards and a top 4 defenseman, right? Whatever you want to say about Nate Schmidt, he's a top 4 defenseman on this team, right? So it is very rare.
Yeah. And so it's just an unusual occurrence, and we weren't sure what to expect. And you had to know, and Rick Bowness talked about this, a couple of times, essentially saying like there was going to be some interesting, management of those guys within the game, because he knew, look, these guys haven't played. Nikolai Ehlers hasn't played since game 2. It's game 39.
Crazy.
Like it's insane to think about how much expectation. It's crazy to think about how well this team has done, given the fact that Nikolai Ehlers was going to be seen as that backbone of this Jets team. And in order for the Jets to actually be able to accomplish quite a bit this season, which of course was the goal, was the reliance on Nikolai Ehlers. And yet he's been unavailable to the Winnipeg Jets since game 2 of the season. And actually, what was your kind of initial thoughts on Ehlers? Because I thought he looked pretty good given the fact that he hasn't played in 37 games.
Absolutely. We kind of touched on the first period there, and he was a little bit hard on himself, but he ends up with over 17 minutes of ice time, 17:22 to be exact, including 4 minutes on the power play, 3 shots on net, right? So you could see the speed and the skill on display, and there was an opportunity for him. I think he shot the puck, but I think he wanted to pass it there on the power play. But you saw him be very effective out there on the power play, moving the puck. And I mentioned to you here watching the game at your place in the third period, like when the Jets have a 5-on-3, like you can see like this power play is really good right now, and it has been for the majority of the season. But especially on the 5-on-3, you see like all the weapons and how much time and space they create for themselves. So I thought Ehlers was fine, and for the most part, like Nate Schmidt, I thought was good. He was engaged. Like I didn't think that anybody, like put it this way, Dave, I didn't think that anybody was rushed back into the lineup. If anybody thinks that's the case, you just haven't been following this team, right? They just don't do that. And you mentioned Ehlers has been out since early October. So you knew that he was itching to come in. So I thought, for the most part, those guys, it's not like, they were the best players on the team for the Jets, because obviously it was Pierre-Luc Dubois, Kyle Connor, Josh Morrissey doing the majority of the damage, right?
Yeah.
But you saw Wheeler, take the goal. It was, I believe, a goalie interference penalty or roughing penalty, right? So I didn't like that because, that negated the rest of the Jets' power play.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I thought, Ehlers specifically, it's going to take him, a few games to get back into it. I wouldn't be surprised, if he scores a goal or 2 against Vancouver. But in terms of, being full peak Nick Ehlers,
yeah,
as well as anybody, Dave, it's not going to just happen one game. And I think he would tell you that himself.
I think that's a good point, Ezzy. And let's get into the recap, because, we've got it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long morning. So let's get started with the Betway game recap, because it's brought to you, no surprise, by Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is a sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront. With a large selection of betting options in sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds, what are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. You must be 19 years or older, Ezzy, to play. Please play responsibly. So, Ez, it took the Jets. Sorry, I got, I screwed up, Ez. I got the show playing on the YouTube channel so I can tweet out the links, but I just heard my voice in my ears. It was throwing me off. I didn't know.
It's all good. Let's get into that goal.
Before we get into the goal, though, we got to talk about the fact that it's a Friday night. Folks in Winnipeg are pumped up. The Jets are riding a 3-game win streak coming into tonight's game. And yet there was almost nobody in the building. And you know why there was almost no one in the building? Because Winnipeggers were late arriving today. And because there wasn't a whistle for the first 10 minutes of that first period. And even when the whistle happened, they still couldn't get everybody in. So it was amazing to watch everyone filtering in. I was like, this is really weird because it should be a packed house. And it turned out it was a sellout, but it was hilarious because people were late arriving. And usually they're like, okay, well, there's a whistle, so you'll get into it. There was no whistle. They kept making all the stops so it took it took over 10 minutes, probably took about 13 minutes before the actual building was filled up. And maybe that's why it took the Jets so long to get some shots on Andrei Vasilevsky.
It's crazy. The puck possession was just dominated by the Lightning, especially in the first half of the first period and for the majority of the first period for that matter. But, this goal is really just shows you, how strong and how skilled of a player Steven Stamkos is, right? Because it's Brendan Dillon, a good defensive defenseman on him. And on this particular case, right, Stamkos puts the puck on net and it's Killorn and Cirelli in front of the net. Pionk has Cirelli and just nobody, Pionk has Killorn. I forget what I said there. I misspoke. Killorn was in front of the net and Pionk had his man. And then Cirelli was just in front of the net and nobody really covered him, right? So I'm not sure if that should have been Scheifele, probably. Just seemed Scheifele was high there, taking care of the point. But it just, to me, was kind of missed defensive coverage, Dave. But it's easy for me to say, but that line, wow, is that line phenomenal. Again, the Lightning, it's not a guarantee that they're going to go back to the Stanley Cup final for the 4th season in a row. But these are just veteran guys that just bring it every single night. Similar to, Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler. These guys are just, grizzled veterans. So in that particular case, to me, that was just Stamkos' strength fighting off Brendan Dillon, who's a big boy himself. And then, Anthony Cirelli just jumping on a rebound and, the Jets not really covering him very well.
And, it's interesting because it kind of set itself up. It was like a little bit of a drop, right? The emotional engagement of the fan base was kind of like, and you didn't know if the Jets were going to be up because, and I'm not going to say that there was a expectation or you kind of had a built-in excuse, right? Oh, we had to integrate, 25% of our lineup basically of new guys into things. So maybe and it did look, right? As it did look a little bit like the timing was off because these guys haven't played games in a while, right? Like Wheeler hasn't played a game in a while. Nikolai Ehlers hasn't played a game in a while. Cole Perfetti hasn't played a game in a while.
And practices are not going to replicate a game, right?
No.
So you can practice all you want, but you're always going to be rusty, especially in Ehlers' case when you've been off for almost 3 months.
That's right. And so that's kind of what in my mind you saw. And you could, like you said, and you're right, the possession numbers were not in the Jets' favor. They had, it was 12-4 at one point for the shots, right, in that first period. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, it's not looking good for the Winnipeg Jets. But then the Tampa Bay Lightning kind of do something inexplicable on that first opportunity for the Winnipeg Jets. And they part like the Red Seas. I'm not trying to get biblical on you, but it was just an unusual defensive choice.
We both do have biblical names though, right?
There you go. Exactly. And so to me, watching that play, you're thinking to yourself, of all the guys on this team that you're not going to want to give time and space to, it's Kyle Connor. And what did the Tampa Bay Lightning choose to do? They give Kyle Connor time and space. And what does he make him do? Makes him pay.
Absolutely. And, again, who's directly responsible for creating this goal? Josh Morrissey, right? He pinches in along the wall. But yeah, it's really kind of baffling because you have two really good forwards there, both offensively and defensively, in Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point. So it's not like you have a couple schlubs out there, right, Dave?
Right.
But
exactly.
both of those guys are in position. And it's almost like, the other one guy thought the other guy was going to cover Kyle Connor. And Kyle Connor, as you mentioned, he takes that time and space and has a really nice wrist shot release. And it looked like he originally got the goal and Dubois was just creating traffic. But as it turns out, it goes off of Dubois. So yeah, good for Kyle Connor for, having the wherewithal to take that time and space and just put a really nice shot on net that looked like beat Vasilevsky blocker side. But as I mentioned, it did go to Dubois. We didn't find out about that until the first intermission. But that really was a weird play. And it was kind of inexplicable why both forwards just decided to, leave Connor untouched.
Well, and the only negative, as Judy Owen for the Canadian Press, who sits beside us in the press box, she pointed out that she felt that the organization robbed the fans of playing "Hey Baby," and so that maybe that Pierre-Luc Dubois' music should have, played after they announced the change in the second period. But regardless of how, I mean, look, that's how you need to score goals, right? I mean, the Jets have all the talent, but you can't always be on the outside. And the amount of, you saw with Nikolai Ehlers, you saw with Kyle Connor, the amount of poise that these guys have with the puck, it is incredible. I mean, you can see, I think it was a play along the wall. It was Ehlers, and there was very good likelihood of one or two bolts, like just getting him. But because they have to respect him, they pulled off, and he just doesn't shy away with the puck. He doesn't cough it up, and he holds on to it, and he creates something. So, it is amazing, though, as you're right, for what Kyle Connor can do. But again, you need guys like Pierre-Luc Dubois, and we should mention, because it was a notable game for Pierre-Luc Dubois, 400th NHL game. So maybe that was the reason why he was so ready to go and so raring to go, in making some history for him, playing a milestone game. And yeah, you're right. I didn't see it initially that it was credited to him, because of course that's not how it was announced in the building. Because if you looked at it, it looked like it was Kyle Connor. It didn't look anything like Pierre-Luc Dubois had gotten it. But hey, the Jets probably didn't deserve to be 1-1 going into the first period, first intermission. Sorry, Ezzy.
Not at all.
That's how
anybody who watched that game, the first period of this game, would tell you that, right? Like, but that's how hockey works sometimes, right? Like,
absolutely.
I mean, unless you it only matters on the scoreboard, as they say, right? Like, if you want to again go to the advanced stats, I had it up here on natural stats. Look, it was 70.8%. Was the even strength Corsi here.
Is that good?
Let me just hold on a second. It was 71%. So, I mean, that's heavily in favor of the Lightning. And the second period was more even, but it was also, the possession was controlled by the Lightning, right?
Right.
So, but that's how hockey works. And I mentioned this last game, and I wasn't trying to be the Debbie Downer, because usually Drew's the Debbie Downer. But I mean, you look at these last couple of games here, Dave, against the Oilers and the Flames, and, they were close games. But there were big chunks of those games that were controlled by the Oilers and the Flames. But the Jets ended up, what was the big difference? I would argue Connor Hellebuyck.
37.
You also got some, good performances, right? So, I mean, Josh Morrissey wasn't too bad either, and he wasn't 100% for both of those games. So, I just think, in this particular case, you take it, and the late goal, to me, I mean, it swung the momentum back in the Jets' favor, even though, as we'll get into here, Kucherov put the Lightning ahead. You got the feeling that the Jets were in this game the whole time. And then, as we know, the game was tied going into the third period. But yeah, the first period wasn't good. But look, the Jets have had crappy first periods and won a lot of games. So it's almost like you expect that now, Dave. You expect a slow start from the Jets.
Well, and it's interesting because, again, like I've detailed, like you've talked about, and it's interesting because you have less of an excuse, because now you have as complete of lineup. Obviously, the only guy they're really missing is Mason Appleton, because Logan Stanley is essentially the 7th, 8th,
and
Sacramento line. Sorry, so
he's coming back soon.
That's right, but essentially you've got the 7th, 8th, 9th, defenseman, wherever you want to put him. So you've got your lineup, but again, having all four, you're going to give them a little latitude, knowing that it's going to take them a few games to kind of get back, into the smooth feel of how the game is, given how much time they've had off. But it's been a problem, right? This Jets team is not getting a lot of shots. They're not generating a ton. As you outlined 2 minutes ago, they're not possessing the puck very much. And that's one of the things they'll change. And Rick Bowness has talked about it. See, that's the one thing about Rick Bowness that I find terribly
refreshing. He doesn't sugarcoat.
That's right. He does. It's refreshing because he doesn't tell you what you're watching a game. And he was very honest. I remember that was one of the first comments he said in his preseason address. He said, "You guys are watching the game too. Like, I'm not going to sit here and try and pretend like what you're seeing isn't happening." So he's not going to tell you that he loved every element of this game. And really, to be honest, good coaches can do that because they're not throwing their teams under the bus by saying, "I didn't love my first period."
I feel like Rick Bowness, Dave, is kind of like when you talk to your dad or I talk to my dad about the game. Yeah. It's like they'll be like, yeah, the Jets won, but the Lightning badly outplayed them for the majority of the game, right? Like, yeah, he'll tell you, he'll be straightforward. And I think, when you've coached 2,600 games, which is just remarkable. Yeah. I think there's more of that. Like, you've seen everything. I mean, what service are you providing your players by? I mean, the players obviously aren't listening to everything Rick Bowness says to the media. But I think Bowness he's a straight shooter. I think that's the best way I would put it.
Well, it's funny, and Hatchet Harry is saying that 2,600. Well, and NTRS9 is saying Bones is old school. He's been around long enough. He's not going to sugarcoat it. He calls a spade, and then Hatchet Harry said 2,600 games is just insane. And it's true. And it's funny because the last person who wanted to talk about it was Rick Bowness. Rick Bowness had zero
Like
interest.
Connor Bedard after Canada won the gold medal. Connor Bedard said that. He said, I'm not talking about myself right now.
Well, we'll talk about the World Junior Games after the break.
It's crazy.
It was amazing.
The Sweden-US game was one of the craziest games I've ever seen.
It made no sense. It was 1-0 after 20 minutes and then somehow 8-7. But no, you know what? It was interesting because after in the morning availability today, Rick Bowness was asked about 2,600. And his response was, we've got a game against Tampa Bay Lightning. We got to win 2 points. And he's right. Like the Jets, look, you're not even halfway through the season. So you're not scoreboard watching too much, but the Jets have to be aware, they're closer to Dallas, but Minnesota, Nashville, those teams are kind of rolling a little bit. And they've got some, not with Minnesota so much. They've got a little bit of latitude on Nashville, Colorado. Colorado is insane. The fact that they're like 9-10 points back of Winnipeg is crazy. And even St. Louis, right? So those teams, you got to be aware, and you want to keep adding
St.
points.
Louis now 2-0 or 3-0 since O'Reilly and Tarasenko went out. It's crazy. Like they beat the Leafs and then they beat somebody else. I forget who they beat last game, but yeah, I don't think the Blues are going to be in the race, Dave, personally. But
no, I agree.
It's definitely going to be between, as you mentioned, the Jets, the Stars, the Wild. You expect when the Avalanche get healthier. I don't know if they're going to be able to compete for first in the division, considering that they're 9 or 10 points back. But when you get McKinnon back and you get Landeskog back and all these guys. Who am I missing here? Valerie Nichushkin. I mean, there's so many guys. I mean, they have so many injuries.
They're missing
Darren Held from St. Andrews, Manitoba. I don't know if he's back yet, but he was injured. So you're right. I mean, the Central Division, it's pretty crazy actually that it's this close. But look, Dallas has had a really good first half of the season, just like the Jets have. But you're right, Dave. The Jets aren't going to rest on their laurels. This was a huge win. It really was. When you consider that, some of the teams they've played, like Edmonton, Vancouver especially, they're kind of middling teams, right? This is a top-end NHL team. This is one of the better teams in the league. And sure, you didn't have Victor Hedman, but you still had Stamkos, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, and Braden Point and Cirelli, right? So, for the most part, this was a pretty healthy Lightning team.
Well, and Rick Bowness, as much as he didn't want to make it about himself, he didn't have an option because the team put up a 2,600 banner up on the Jumbotron, so he had to acknowledge that his accomplishment was being honored by the team and the players, and of course the fans here in Winnipeg gave him a big standing O for that accomplishment. And maybe the team responded. Who knows? Maybe that's what they needed. Maybe that was the catalyst because less than 6 minutes, after the goal the Tampa scored to take a 2-1 lead. Well, the Jets were back in it. They took advantage of a power play opportunity, and once again, even though we weren't sure it was his goal. In fact, those of us in the press box were convinced it was Josh Morrissey's goal, but that would, of course, ruin my narrative that Josh Morrissey is going to get 82 assists in 82 games. So Josh Morrissey gets the assist, the primary assist, the goal. Pierre-Luc Dubois, what is he doing? He's in front of the net and he ties up the game.
Yeah, and we talked about it after the Calgary game. You had 2 tip goals, right? Like point shot, but really, I mean, the Jets have been playing much more of whatever you want to call it, straight line, simplistic type of hockey.
Yeah.
But that's a huge difference. In addition to the fact that you're getting more offense from the defense, offense, whatever you want to call it. It's the fact that they're going harder to the net. Like that has been a mission of this team. And right before the goal that was scored, Dubois was trying to bang in a rebound, right? So yeah, originally it looked like it was Morrissey's goal, but I mean, I think, this is a development that we haven't seen, not just since last year, but I think over the last 3 or 4 years. I think, the MO for the Jets is like, look, you don't always have to score beautiful goals. Just because you guys are highly skilled players doesn't mean, I mean, it was like the shoot first. It was always the first power play was shoot first, right? Like that was always the thing. And then the less skilled second power play unit, they're going to move it around a little bit more, but I don't think, that applies at all this year. I think both power play units, whoever's out there, and you saw, Kevin Stenlund and Sam Gagner out there last game. And it was nice to see, Nate Schmidt back on the power play, on the second power play, as in addition to Cole Perfetti, right? And obviously, Wheeler as well. But this is just kind of like a carbon copy, Dave, of so many goals that we've seen this year, right? Like move the puck around with speed, and it's either Morrissey or Pionk or sometimes Ehlers when he's in the lineup, right? But it's obviously been Morrissey for the most part of the season. And then you have traffic in front of the net. So, I mean, it's a formula that works really well because you have the skilled players that can execute, right? Like it looks easy, right? Like seems simplistic, like, move the puck from forward to D back to forward and then, point shot and then traffic in front and tip it in. But these are highly skilled players with Morrissey and Dubois and Connor. So, I really like the way the Jets power play looked tonight.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no question about it. And, as you mentioned it to me in the third period, and we're going to not jump ahead just yet, but it is rare to see a team get 2 5-on-3s in a game. And it's funny, Derek Richards is mentioning in the chat, Stamkos denied 500 tonight. Stamkos could have scored a number of goals. And, you have to give Connor Hellebuyck or his friends, because, that almost happened a few times. But, before we get into the third and we keep moving, we got to talk about this Southeast hate, because it was like, there was that fight at the end of sometime in the second period.
We should explain too, for those who don't know what you're talking about here, the first 2 years that the Jets were back. I mean, I know a lot of people here have been with us for all, has it been 12 years since the Jets have been back, Dave, or 13? I forget, whatever
12.
It is, 12 or 13. Well, I think it's been 12. But most people know that the Jets were in the Southeast Division, but some people don't. So for the first couple of years that the Jets were back in Winnipeg after they came over from Atlanta, they were in the Southeast Division with the Lightning. I just wanted to get that in there for those.
Sure.
Like Bailey, for example, that would have been when Bailey was, I don't even know if Bailey would have been born yet then.
Yeah.
But I mean, for our younger IC viewers, I just wanted to get that in there, that the Jets used to be in the Southeast.
It's always good. It's always good. But I'm just saying, it's interesting because we're watching this and they're fighting behind the net. And remind me, sorry, who is that fight involving? Was that Pionk? I think Pionk was involved in that one behind the Lightning net. And all of a sudden, I look over, Connor Hellebuyck's at the blue line. Connor Hellebuyck was thinking about getting involved. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, what is going on? Like there's...
Was it Pionk and Cirelli?
Yeah, I think it was Pionk and Cirelli. So I just I'm trying to figure out if T. Konopoli had given the Jets some sort of perhaps pregame speech about how much the Jets should hate the Lightning, because it just seemed like there was a lot of animus between these two clubs, and it was
and you gotta love it, right, Dave? Like that's what we want to see, because we always complain about when there's a boring game, right? This was not a boring game, and I think part of the Jets' passion and energy came from, as we talked about, the 4 veterans that they got, well, minus Perfetti, the 4 players that they got back, 4 impact players that they got back, but also Friday night, right? They've had a couple of days between games. But I think, over the years, the Jets and Lightning play very similar styles of hockey, right? If you think about it, I mean, the Lightning, I would argue are still, better on the defensive end, like their group of defensemen, especially with Victor.
Except for on that empty net, but we're going to get ahead of ourselves.
Well, the empty netter, I don't know what was going on there. That was Sergachev and Braden Point. And, it was a 1-on-2 situation for Morgan Barron. So Morgan Barron just hustles, and you never see wraparound goals.
Get back. We can't jump ahead.
But the point is that the Jets and Lightning, look, they're built from the net out, right? They both have Vezina winning goaltenders. They both have really skilled, top to bottom, they're solid teams and really fast. And I think that's why you didn't have very many whistles in the first period, because it was basically, a back and forth type of style game, right? Even though the Jets weren't creating a lot of offense or getting any shots, right? So this was a big win. And, the Jets, closed the gap a little bit with the Stars. But I think these are the type of games, I don't want to call it a statement game or anything like that, but you can measure yourself up against one of the better teams in the East, and you can say you beat them, even though, as I mentioned, this could have gone either way. It was a tie game in the third period, and the Jets came through when it mattered and scored on the 5-on-3.
Yeah, and again, like I said, you want to see the team playing with passion, and that's not a bad thing. You want to see that there's a lot of emotion. You want to see that these guys want to win the game, because that's if you're Case Ross Rob, you don't really care. Then it's not, you can say, well, we've won 3 in a row. It's going to be, like I said, you could make all sorts of excuses, especially given the fact Tampa scored early in that second period. And that very easily could have been a turning point in the game. But instead, the Jets fought back, tied it up, which is how things went into the third until who else? Kyle Connor. Finally, we know this was Kyle Connor's goal, not somebody else's. Once again, a power play goal for number 81, and his 17th of the season gives the Jets a 3-2 lead.
Yeah, and Connor, we talked about, he was so good all game long, and the power play has been so good. Especially in the last, let's say, going back to before the Christmas break, but they continued to move the puck really well, and Josh Morrissey was heavily involved. But you just like the direct kind of Scheifele to Connor, crossing. We used to see that a lot with Blake Wheeler and Patrick Laine, right, Dave? But coming the other way with Laine on the left side. So just a really nice pass by Scheifele. And when it's a 5-on-3, there's already a huge advantage. But then Cirelli loses his stick, right? And I mentioned that to you. So it's essentially a 5-on-2. But again, the Jets aren't. What are the Jets going to say? Are they going to go grab Cirelli a twig? No. I mean, they're going to take advantage here, and that's what they did. So I love the execution on the power play. Love the pass from Scheifele to Connor. Connor was fantastic. We talked about it. It looked like he scored the first period goal, but then it was obviously given to Dubois on the deflection. But just love how the power play is to use a tired cliche, is really firing on all cylinders right now.
And you know what? That's what the Jets needed to do, because, and I know some people would say, well, you need more 5-on-5 goals, and there's no question about it. You scored 2 of your goals. I mean, well, technically, actually, sorry, the Barron goal obviously is a shorty, and they're not gonna skip ahead, as he. But the reality is, sometimes you just have to pick up the win, right? And we've got to give Dylan DeMello a shout out, because that was a hell of a good. Sorry, I'm reading. Rob. Sorry, I got distracted by Rob Mahoney. See, this is the problem when Drew's not here. I'm usually paying more attention to the chat than I am the show, and now I've got to pay attention to the show more than I am the chat. So
the chat is way better than the show, I would say.
I know. That's why I'm pissed, because I'm usually paying attention to what's going on in the chat, and now I'm stuck. I'm stuck talking to you and being focused and making sure I'm making all the stops here. But you really do have to recognize the play by Dylan DeMello, because again, it's one of those situations where it's funny, because when you're watching it live and you tweet and you're like, well, how did that stay out of the net? And you think just Connor Hellebuyck, because Connor Hellebuyck makes so many grade A saves for the Winnipeg Jets. But in this instance, it was the man they call Smoke, the man they call Smoke was the one who fired that puck away from the.
Talking about Pokey Reddick's brother, Smokey?
Yes, that's true. Exactly what I was talking about. But anyways, the point is that every once in a while, 37 needs to get a bailout, and that's what he did from Dylan DeMello. And sure enough, what happens? The Winnipeg Jets end up, going into, it's a 6-on-4, and you think, first of all, Kyle Connor, his chance of winning the Lady Byng is gone. I mean, he had 4 penalties, 4 penalty minutes, 2 penalties all of last season.
He's an enforcer now. Connor's not a goal scorer. He's not a playmaker. He's a tough guy.
He took 2 penalties in one game. I mean, that is
Weren't they both tripping too, or one was slashing? They were both tripping, right?
No, I think they're both tripping. So I mean, you've got Kyle Connor, the goon. Although one of the problems with social media is like I called him. I made some joke about it, but I had to insert this is a joke, because if you don't, then someone truly believes that you actually think Kyle Connor is a goon. It's kind of unfortunate. There's no I'm being sarcastic.
There's a lot of power plays in this game. We talked about, to me, that was a huge factor. Not just the fact that the Jets scored, but the fact that the type of penalties Tampa Bay was taking, right? Giving the Jets the extra man advantage.
Well, the Stamkos one, as he was idiotic. I mean, I don't know. I mean, first of all, Ehlers, he takes out Ehlers, so that's a penalty. And I mean, even the interesting one, Scheifele didn't have the puck. He got taken out, which is probably why he was pissed. Later on, and took out who did he take out? Foot. And then, but heaven forbid they actually show that on the broadcast. Instead, we have.
And then he actually dropped the gloves with, was that Cirelli? I forget.
Cirelli, yeah.
You just don't see that. You don't see Scheifele with the big body checks, but Foot is a big boy.
Yeah, Foot is a big boy.
Scheifele's a big boy too. Don't get me wrong. Scheifele, he's not a small man, but Foot's just like his dad, a big stay-at-home defenseman, right? So I like that. I like the fact that there's a little bit of hate on between these teams that don't play each other that much.
Yeah, and again, like I said, the hit on Fleury, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Again, unfortunately, we didn't see the replay because we had to watch some guy they didn't show the replay. I didn't understand why they didn't show the replay. They showed the replay of the fight, which was fine. The fight was good, but I'm not entirely certain why we needed to see we couldn't see the replay.
Even a fight? I don't even know if that was a fight. That was just
Mark Scheifele liked it. He was rather.
It was more of a shoving match, I would say.
He was rather jazzed up about it. And,
it wasn't exactly Lennox Lewis versus Riddick Bowe, Dave.
It definitely was not. But the reality is, the Jets PK was good. They were again solid, and it's not as if Tampa Bay doesn't have some serious firepower. So I mean, another good sign for the Winnipeg Jets is that they were managed to keep Tampa off the board in that regard, right? As because that's one of those things you need is that you need to show that your power play is working, your penalty kill is working, and that's sometimes how you win games, especially when you have a goaltender like Connor Hellebuyck.
Sorry, I got to give a shout out to your boy Morgan Barron here, because to me, like, he was the unsung hero in the penalty kill tonight. Like, Adam Lowry is just a professional. Like, he's just an elite penalty killer. So, I mean, we have to give Lowry was also good tonight on the penalty kill.
Yep.
But, I thought, if one player deserved an empty netter, I know that, that kind of sounds stupid. But like, to me, Morgan Barron deserved that just based on how hard he worked all night long on the PK. And I think Barron is a guy who probably would tell you, like, he'd like to be producing more offense. Like, he'd like to have a couple more goals, right? But he's turned into a penalty killing specialist for the Jets, and he's doing a really good job. So that was just him outworking Sergachev and Braden Point and getting rewarded and putting the bow on this game.
Well, and like, we've got a couple of good comments. Joe from Winnipeg, who of course is a favorite here, he writes, every player on the Jets had a role to play today. It was a great team win. Absolutely agree with that. And I like this one from Ryan. Ryan Trapp says, best no goalie goal I've seen, all hustle. And that's what you're talking about.
It really was.
Because Sergachev, he's a good defenseman. But
I don't know. Tired. Clearly it was the end of the game, end of the shift. They're tired. But again, you had enough time left there that you still could have come back in the game.
And it's a 6-on-4, right? Because the noted goon, Kyle Connor, is sitting in the penalty box. So and it was for the entirety of that third period, the remainder of the third period, because I think he took it with 1:52 left in that game.
That's the type of goal, Dave, that drives John Cooper crazy. It would drive any coach crazy when you have the numbers. You have two guys back, and a guy just beats both of them to the puck and, wraps it into the net, right? So coaches hate those type of goals.
Well, and as you said it, and you're right, it is a massive team win. Like, it really is. It's not to be like, you're not going to sit here and you're not crowning the Jets Stanley Cup champions because they won that game, but it is a huge team win. And here's a fun little fact for you. You ready for this, Ez? So tonight was game 39 for the Jets, and they won their 25th game. Last year, they won their 25th game in game 57. Both times they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning.
It's crazy.
Dave M, I did a little research.
Numerology there, Dave.
Yeah, but that's a significant pace that they're on compared to last year. And
well, this team is head and shoulders above last year's team in every sense, right? Like, we've talked about the special teams, penalty kills better, power plays better, the team defense is better, offense from defensemen is better, right? Like, expected goals, possession, everything is better. Maybe not so much possession in this game, but in most areas, the Jets are better this year, right? The coaching is better, right? Like, everything, the attitude, the culture around this team is better, right? So it's not a surprise at all because of how bad last year was, but you're absolutely right. Look, the Jets are locked to make the playoffs. It's just a question if they're able to win the Central or if they finish second or third or fourth. I think it's going to be neck and neck, for the next, how many games are left now? 43. I think this is going to go right down to the wire. Colorado, I think is going to push for sure, but just look at how tight it is between the Jets, Stars, and the Wild right now, right? So it's great. That's what you love to see.
Friend of the show, Rob Mahoney, makes a good point. Rob is a good person, in case anybody's wondering, and he makes a good point. 2018-19 had the best record but then dropped off a cliff after Christmas. This year, coaching is better. No swoon.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. 2018-19, we remember what happened with, in the playoffs with the St. Louis Blues, if you remember, right? The Jets were right in that series. They could have won that series. And who scored the win? Was it Braden Shen who got that winning goal? Remember?
I know.
It was Jacob Trouba froze the puck there. Remember he froze the puck and there was the
behind the
goal.
net.
I think it was Braden Shen. It might have been Jaden Schwartz, but it was one of those two players.
Oh.
The Blues that was a Cinderella run with Jordan Binnington and how he was playing right and how good Ryan O'Reilly was. He won the Conn Smythe, of course. But you're right. To compare this team to any other team, I think is foolish because the 2017-18 team, that was so long ago that, especially the defense, right? Like it's essentially, with the exception of Josh Morrissey, it's a completely different defense, right? So you can't compare those two teams. This is a much different team. And now that they're getting healthier, they're almost completely healthy once Manaline and Appleton and Stanley come back. We'll see if how well they can do. But I think there's no doubt that the Jets have proven that they're at the very least a top 10 team in the league this year.
Well, you're a top 10 guy on Illegal Curve, Ezzy, every single time. That's what I say. I say he's top. That Ginsburg is top 10 material here on Illegal Curve. Now, you guys in the chat, first of all, Phyllis, I don't know, because I'm trying to pay attention. So hopefully Phyllis is instructing everybody. I know a lot of other people are instructing folks to smash that like button, Ezzy, because of course, that helps our algorithm. Not that we know what that means, but that helps us. And of course, leave comments. If you can leave comments on the podcast, I always appreciate it. I always make note of that, of course. And that gives you an opportunity to win prizes, which of course we've got lots of prizes still to come, as we've got Tough Duck Toques. We've got to give away a prize, which I probably have to figure out the winner in the next 3 minutes.
I picked the unique code word. This is the first time that I've picked the unique code word. Yes. And I don't know if anybody's going to guess it, but if anybody's watched the show a lot over the years, they'll understand why.
Don't give a clue, Ezzy. No clues.
Okay, I won't. No
clues. But we're hold on, I'll tell you right now, no, nobody has guessed it. So we are good in that sense. We have not had a person guess. So that is good news, we're very happy with that, because we don't want you to guess it. We want you to listen to the show, and therefore you can that way you'll win authentic Jets gear. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a new month. We've got a new contest. Drew screwed up. People pointed this out. People actually came to Twitter. People were having a chit chat in the pregame.
Well, the pitchforks were coming out from Mindell. I like it.
Well, of course, because he screwed up. I didn't, because I set up the Calgary show, so my links were fine. But Drew did a little too much copying and pasting of his old links.
He does get sloppy with his copy and pasting.
Copy was a little sloppy, and let's just say the folks had to come out of the chat, find me on Twitter. Meanwhile, I was trying to work, trying to do all of Illegal Curve, Instagramming, tweeting, updating illegalcurve.com, and yet I've got folks telling me the link's not working. So I had to go edit the link, Mindell, and fixed it so the folks will be able to have a link that works.
That's actually why Drew isn't on the show today. He was embarrassed.
Yeah, Joe from Winnipeg.
He didn't want to show his face.
Drew has sausage fingers. So Drew's sausage fingers, unfortunately, inserted the wrong link. So if you want to enter the contest, feel free to do that. And that is on the link in the description below. It's also always on the illegalcurve.com website. I've always got it in the notes. On a game day, I've always got it as note 2, which includes a link to the post-game show. And it's also in the pregame reports. So you can always read that there, or sometimes in the practice reports. I have it as well, because we want you to win authentic Jets gear, jerseys, hats, t-shirts. And don't worry, folks. I know some folks were going, Manuk, where's my stuff? I'm getting it all. Trying to whittle down my list. It's on my list of things to do. So next week they'll be sent out. They'll be delivered. I mean, I had to, Spencer, just in case you're wondering, I had to wait for Ezzy to get back into town so I can, bring him along with me. So don't you worry. We're going to have winners. We're going to have merch to give away. And remember, the grand
prize. Should we take the minivan? Let's take the minivan.
Well, yeah, we'll take the minivan, because we're going to have so much stuff to take so that's for sure. The minivan is how we'll do it. But not only can you win the authentic gear, you can also win tickets to an NHL game of your choice. Of course, we got one winner from last month. And remember, I had some people asking me, even if you're you win the post-game show prize, you can also still win your you can still be the grand prize winner. So there is no problems with repeat winners on this show. We allow it all. But anyways, let's just thank our friends at Betway, because they brought you the Betway game recap, brought to you by Betway. It's simple, fun, and safe to bet with Betway. So head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play, Ezzy. Please play responsibly. Well, I got through that one a little bit better than I got through the last time. But hey, there's still plenty more show to go, folks. I mean, I know Ezzy and I could probably, end now, because we've got a show coming up in a few hours. But there's a lot of things to talk about.
No.
There's so much to talk about. The Moose, World Juniors, your procedure.
What a game last night.
Nothing is off the table on the Illegal Curve post-game show. So I'm Dave Manuk. He's Ezzy Ginsburg. We're heading to commercial break. And when we come back, we'll talk about everything I just discussed and whatever else you want to talk about. Mention in the chat. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Dave, my man, why are you in the car already? It's hours until game time.
Drew, it's because I'm stressed out right now, driving around downtown Winnipeg, looking for a parking spot, and I'm not finding one. I've lost Ginsburg. I don't even know where that guy is right now.
Dave, haven't I taught you anything? Do what I do. Pre-book your entire month's worth of game day parking with the Grid Park app. It's super easy to use and saves me both time and stress.
Well, Drew, I'm not independently wealthy like you are. So I'm sorry that I don't have millions of dollars to pre-book my parking month in advance. What's that going to cost you? $25?
How about $5?
Come on, $5? No way.
$5. I'm not telling you a lie. And our listeners can get a free park with the new special promo code Illegal Curve. Guess what? There's more.
Come on, there's more, Drew. You're lying to me. What more could there be?
Grid Park now has underground parking, so my car can stay warm during the game.
So wait a second. All the driving around I do, looking for parking, minus 40. You're telling me I could be toasty warm in a car after the hockey game?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Underground parking. Just download the Grid Park app. That's GRYD Park and use the code Illegal Curve. All one word. You'll park for free your first time.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve postgame show. I'm Dave Minuk. He's Ezzy Ginsburg. We're holding it down. No, I was. What are you talking about?
I was yelling at you from down here, and
I was trying to get the winner. Ez, come on! I
wasn't sure what was going on up there.
Well, I mean, I was trying to. I had again. I'm like, I need like 8. I need like an octopus because I need like hands here, hands there, tweeting,
Ocho.
Instagramming. Yeah, exactly. That would make it a lot easier. As anywho. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey postgame show. Lots to talk about. Jets, of course, winners 4-2 over the Lightning. So they are feeling good about themselves. They'll be playing on Sunday against the Vancouver Canucks, right, Ez? So they've got a 2:00 game on Sunday against the Canucks. Right now, the Jets are scheduled to practice tomorrow at 12.
What's that going to be? 6-1, 7-2, something like that? The Canucks stink.
Really? I agree, by the way. There's the chat is saying, Ezzy, I either need a clone or an intern. I'm happy to take either. I wouldn't mind cloning myself, but I'd probably get a
I
little
thought
bit
we have
annoyed.
Bailey. Bailey's the intern.
Yeah, but Bailey's more of a shadow intern than an actual intern.
Right.
I mean, unless we decide to make her an actual intern, but I guess that's the story for another day. But anywho, the Jets winners. Ez, do you want to share anything with the chat? People have been chatting about some things. Do you want to chit chat about anything?
You want to get into Dr. J. Buenafe? So yes, I put it all over social media. My entire life is on social media. I don't have anything to hide here, but yes, the procedure went well. Dr. J. Buenafe was great. I mean, we know him. A lot of Jets fans know him from his commercials on back in the day on TSN 1290, and then I believe he's on CJOB 680, unless I'm mistaken.
I think you're right.
But yeah, it went well. Like my area is a little bit sore, but I've been putting some ice on it. I don't have any, I'm doing the show right now, but I'm probably going to go home and put a little bit more of those frozen peas on there. But for the most part, it went really well. So shout out to Dr. J. Buenafe and his team. They took care of me. Watched a episode of The Office while it was going on. I was actually hoping for Seinfeld.
Yeah.
But
you don't get to choose, because when I'm at the dentist, I never do it because I know my dentist is a friend of mine, so I always end up chatting. But I always get that offer, but they usually give you a choice of like what you want to watch.
No, I guess I could have asked, but I don't mind The Office. Like I realize that it's kind of a love-or-hate thing with The Office. It was actually a Will Ferrell cameo episode, so I'm a huge Will Ferrell guy, so I like that. But it went pretty well. Like I was documenting it on my Instagram story, having a little bit of fun with it. But look at Naomi. Naomi wanted me to have the procedure done, and here we are here. So now Drew and I are both V brothers, I guess.
Well, I will say, as the people think you deserve the toque because you didn't make the hardest hitting comment, but you had the hardest hitting procedure of the day. So you win, and I guess you didn't notice. Look, I mean, well, when I started the show and I said that game was just nuts, but a lot of people.
I did pick up on that. I was going to say something, but I wanted you to let you finish the intro. But yeah, I don't get me wrong, Dave. I felt that one.
Anyways, that's that's one of the things that people love about Ezra Ginsburg, because I will tell everyone, the person you are seeing in front of you is the same person you would see on the street or in my house watching the third period. There's nobody in this world.
No way, Dave. This is just an act. This is the mask that I put on. I'm an introverted guy. I'm quiet. I'm serious.
Yeah. Let me tell you,
not at all funny.
There's no one who's more authentic than Ezra Ginsburg. I will tell you that.
Appreciate it, Dave.
Unequivocally, there is nobody more authentic, which is why our show is so good the way it is, because you've got the inauthentic Drew Mandel and you got the authentic Ezra Ginsburg. And I'm sometimes inauthentic.
Drew just has his talking points. He's just so polished, right, Drew?
Yeah. So I'm more in the middle. I'm trying to find Darwin's comment because I wanted to highlight that one, but I can't seem to find it.
So In Bones We Trust is asking if I used frozen peas or carrots. Actually, frozen corn. Actually, Naomi actually, went into the freezer and found what would be suitable to put on that area. Yeah. And it was, I have an ice pack as well that I used to use all the time for my knee and my back, all the various injuries I've had. So It was used. So frozen corn is the answer in Bones.
Well, there we go. So, and a lot of people think that we should have chosen vasectomy or nuts to be the unique code word. It was not. We didn't go that way. Darwin Moore pointed out Ukrainian Christmas Eve to the Ukrainians in the chat. So I wanted to highlight that one for everybody who's getting ready to celebrate Ukrainian Christmas. A Merry Ukrainian Christmas to you and your family, and hope everybody is safe and healthy on this year. So, and
this gives you an opportunity to mention my dad. Obviously, one of the most important people in my life, from, of course, the great northern Canadian mining town of Flin Flon, Manitoba. He was on the topic of Ukrainian. My dad was in a band when he was in high school, and the name of the band was Yuki, Jew, and the Iceman, because there was one Ukrainian, one Jewish guy, being my dad, and one Icelandic guy. So as far as I'm concerned, that's still one of the best band names I've ever heard. Yuki, Jew, and the Iceman.
There you go. Maybe we'll get them back for maybe they should make music for this show. As before I forget, and I can't forget, because of course I gotta give thanks to the person who gave me life. Big shout out to my mom Cheryl, who's celebrating her birthday today. So got a chance.
Happy birthday, Cheryl.
happy birthday to my mom.
That's
of
2 weeks
course.
in a row because it was your niece Emily's birthday.
It's my niece Emily's birthday
last
last week.
right?
Yeah. And now my mom is celebrating her birthday today. So big happy birthday shout out to my mom and happy retirement to my dad, because after almost 50 years of practicing law on Henderson Highway in Elmwood, my dad is hanging up his legal stripes. So big shout out to my dad. I don't want to take away from my mom, but my dad's retiring from the practice of law after 47 years. One of the best people you'll ever get a chance to meet. If you get a chance to meet him, brought
your dad's the best. Good for your dad.
Brought something called honor to the profession of law, which a lot of people
Absolutely.
don't attribute to it, but he was without question one of the best.
I actually didn't think your dad was ever going to retire, Dave. I thought your dad was just going to work forever.
Yeah.
So he deserves it, and he's going to have lots of time to now travel and take it easy, and obviously watch the IC post game shows. So absolutely, shout out to both parents tonight.
Well, I know that my mom watches the show. I can't actually tell you
only when Drew isn't on.
Yes,
right.
Yes,
if Drew's on, she turns it right off. But when it's just the two of us.
T. Cona Paulie says he still owes my dad a retainer. Well, T. Cona, don't worry. He'll be in the office on Monday. So you get down there.
I want a retainer, Dave. I wouldn't have a space in my teeth. Seriously, that's why I have a space in my teeth. I didn't wear my retainer after I had braces. So I think T. Cona Paulie's talking about a legal retainer.
That is what
I wouldn't know anything about that because I can't afford that. But
anyways, yes.
I definitely can't afford Gary's prices.
Yeah, his hourly rate isn't insignificant, but I will say Doug Thorsey is asking me if I'm related to Sid Manuk, the car mechanic, who's no longer unfortunately with us. But yeah, he is a cousin of my dad's, like a third cousin. So not super close, but I knew him for sure.
All the Manuks are related in Manitoba. It's the Manuk dynasty is what it is.
Yes, that is a very good point. Anyway, so happy early Ukrainian Christmas, happy birthday to my mom, and happy retirement to my dad. So it's been, sorry, I took a little time there, took away from the Manuk Moves Minute, of course, because, I didn't want to forget that stuff, because that's the kind of stuff that if you forget about it, your parents aren't very happy with you and you get in trouble and they complain.
I remember one of the happiest, this involves your Baba, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this because that was obviously back in the day when Richie was on the show, but we had Baba Toots call in for Richie's birthday. That must have been, 10 years ago. It was like 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
But I organized it with your Auntie Maureen, Richard's mom, and then Baba Toots, who unfortunately passed away. But she was obviously the matriarch of the family. And that was Richie had no idea either. So he was super happy. So I just wanted to get that in there too.
Yeah, no, it's always all good. And I shouldn't do it, but I can't help myself.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Manuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Oh, how did that happen? Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because, hopefully tomorrow I'll get a little more time on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. But the Moose were in action today in Laval, looking to bounce back against the Rocket. The Moose have hit a bit of a slide because all their guys have been up with the Jets. So they got Jansen Harkins back earlier this week. They got Christian Reichel back yesterday. Of course, Michael Esimont picked up by the San Jose Sharks, so he wasn't returned to the Moose. And the Moose looked like they were flying 3-0 after 40 minutes of play in Laval. And then it looked like the Rocket were going to chip away 3-1. But then the Moose took back a lead 4-1. And so you're thinking, well, the Moose are going to cruise to this victory, Ezzy. But no, not an easy one, because Laval pulled their goaltender 3 times in the third period. So 3 6-on-5 goals for the Laval Rocket to tie the game late in that third period, send it to overtime, and then sure enough, who else but Jansen Harkins scores his 6th goal in 7 games in the American Hockey League.
Isn't that his second OT winner as well, Dave?
I believe, yes, it is his second OT
winner.
Right,
because during his first time back down with the Moose, he had an OT winner.
Yeah. So the point is, you've got Jansen Harkins getting, nice play by Alex Limoges, who actually took what looked very similar to the Blake Wheeler shot in the first period. Turned out it was just a stinger in the leg. I didn't say it hit him in the balls, but it looked like it hit him somewhere. So he ended up going to the room, came back, played the rest part of the first period, and of course the Moose win. So they've ended their losing streak, which hit 3 games, and they will now head to, I want to say, either Toronto or Belleville. It's a 6-game road trip, so they're going to be on the road. Hold on, I'm telling you right now, they're going to go to Belleville tomorrow. 6:05 p.m. So they play Belleville tomorrow. Then they've got a few days off. Then they play Toronto on Wednesday, Toronto Friday, and then Belleville. So long road trip for the Manitoba Moose, but they're getting their guys back, right? And so one of the interesting things is, as I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit tomorrow, Brad Lambert, Jeff Merrick today said on Twitter, and it's funny because I don't know if it was you or somebody else. I texted someone.
How come all of a sudden Jeff Merrick is like the Jets prospect expert?
Well, I don't know.
That's
but
you,
I mean,
Dave.
well, I appreciate that. It's funny because if someone had asked me what I expect, and we saw, look, Shane Wright went back. Seattle sent him to the OHL today, so it's not unexpected to see guys.
And we don't know about Chaz Lucius. He could go to Portland.
Right. So I had said before, I want to say like 2 or 3 days ago, I said, maybe it was today, I don't remember. But anyways, the point is, my expectation was I could see Brad Lambert going. I know some people wanted him up in the NHL, but I didn't see that. I thought
the NHL is not an option for him.
Seattle's one of the top teams in the WHL. In fact, I think
they're ranked number one, Dave.
Yeah, they're the right. I was going to say they're
two.
Yeah. So you got the number one team in the WHL with the Seattle Thunderbird, and I don't think it's a bad thing to send Brad Lambert there to get him an opportunity to
He's
really
18 years old. Let's just pump the brakes a little bit. He's 18 years old.
Yes. And so I think, but it sounds like, so what Jeff Merrick said, just to give everybody in the chat a heads up, he said it sounds like, not official, but it sounds like Brad Lambert's going to head to Seattle after the World Juniors. And just to be clear, guys get a few days off because they missed the Christmas break. So because they've been playing so much, they're going to, usually teams give them a bit of time. Chaz Lucius was asked about it by our boy Chris M. Peters, who's a prospects expert, and he was talking, he asked, what do you know about your situation? And Chaz Lucius said, I'm going to go home to Minnesota. It sounded to me like he was going to be rejoining the Manitoba Moose. That would be my expectation with him.
We should mention here, he's a year older, right? Like that's huge in this situation. He's a 2021 draft pick as opposed to Lambert, who was last year, right? So I don't have any problem with Lambert going to play for,
no, neither do I.
Like the Seattle, I think, everybody expects the Winnipeg Ice to go on a long playoff run. But, people that follow the WHL a lot more than I do, everybody says the same thing. Like Portland's a really good team.
Yeah, they're second place team in the West.
They're second too in that U.S. division, right?
Yeah.
But Seattle with Reed Schaefer and Kevin Kurchinski, first round picks, and other players. Thomas Milic, is he not on the Thunderbirds? Who won the Canada's goaltender? That won a gold. I believe he's on the Thunderbirds as well. Is he not? So I mean, the Thunderbirds are probably the if there's one team that poses the biggest threat to the Winnipeg Ice's, WHL championship aspirations, is probably the Thunderbirds. But in terms of Lambert, and again, we might touch on it tomorrow, Dave, because we want to get into the tough duck hardest hitting comment here, I know.
Yep.
But yeah, there's no problem with him, playing in the WHL for a year, because we know he's going to play pro next year if he doesn't return to the Moose. So if he was 19, I could see maybe an argument, that he doesn't have anything left to prove at the WHL level. But clearly, I mean, the Jets, and that's what matters. The Jets, management group, they're the ones that, player development, they're the ones that know what's best for Brad Lambert, right? In addition to himself. So I don't think this is not, I mean, Lambert's going to have a good pro career. They just want him to, get a little, as we call it, the little marinating in the WHL.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad thing to have a guy, get a chance to dominate against his peers and show that he can do that, because I think it'll go, a long ways for his confidence. And he may not like it. I mean, it's hard to leave, being a pro and all that. But again, as you just said, and as you correctly said, this is a young guy who has a lot of hockey left in him, so he doesn't have to worry about that. And Joe from Winnipeg says Chaz Lucius didn't quit U.S. college early to go to play in the WHL. He's 100% going to the Moose. I Ginsburg guarantee that. And Ezzy, it's too bad, because if he was, Portland would be the next.
I agree with Joe on that, by the way.
So do I. My point I was making earlier was that I could see Brad Lambert going to the WHL. I didn't see Chaz Lucius doing that. And again, that doesn't mean Chaz Lucius is going to come in and dominate at the AHL level, because he hasn't done it yet. He's shown some flashes. He's got to stay healthy. And remember, pro is different. Don't get me wrong. World Juniors is awesome. And that hockey yesterday was incredible. Both games were incredible. Goaltending optional, of course, in the U.S. Sweden game. But the truth is, the pro level, whatever you want to say about the AHL, it's still pro hockey, and you're playing against men. And these kids have a lot of growing to do. And I don't mean like maturity. I just mean maturity from a physical perspective. So
but in their game, I mean, it's a very different game. The AHL game is very different than the NHL game, as you know. But it's a step up from, whether it's the WHL or the OHL. So you're 100% right, Dave. Like, not everybody is able to do what, Kyle Connor did in the AHL or Jack Roslovic, did in the AHL, right? Like it's not, and they did that at an older age. We should mention that, right? Like they had played with the U.S. national team right? So these guys are going to be fine. These guys are first round draft picks. They're going to be really good. And you just have to remember that this is their first year of pro hockey, right? Lucius's first pro year. Lambert sorry, that was wrong. Lambert actually did play pro in Finland. But the point is that he's 18 years old. So I think, everything's going to be fine. There's nothing wrong with going on a nice long WHL, run with the Thunderbirds.
Although I will, so to round it off, as it's interesting to me in the fact that Seattle and Portland are the two teams that are going to be here in Winnipeg against the ice. So Portland, I think it's Seattle first on Sunday, and then I think Portland is playing on Wednesday. And there's 7 Winnipeggers seven Manitobans who are on that Portland team. So anyways, let's get into that tough duck, hardest hitting comment here, and unfortunately, because I'm, I will give Mindell credit for this. I haven't figured out how to do this yet, Ezzy. So I'm just going to post the comment under the Illegal Curve one, and I'll throw it up there because let's go. Brian Harder.
There we go. We got it from Brian Harder. It was about half an hour ago, more than 40 minutes ago. Brian Harder, see him a lot watching the IC postgame show, so we appreciate it. Just like we appreciate everybody joining us after every Jets game. They got the comment up there. The nice thing about the Jets rolling 4 lines is they can reduce the minutes that the top 6 play and stay fresh for the playoffs. And I think, we're going to be talking about that, especially once we get into, March and April. But this is one of those games where we talked about it. I mean, the power play did the majority of the damage tonight, and there was only one even strength goal. But I actually really liked the way Carson Kuhlman looked on that third line with Lowry and Barron. We're expecting there's a good chance when Mason Appleton gets back into the lineup eventually. But clearly, Dave, Lowry and Barron, they're going to be a pair there on the third line, unless there's injuries like, we saw Lowry playing on the wing. But Morgan Barron obviously had a great game. Thought Kevin Stenlund was noticeable, centering the fourth line in place of David Gustafsson. I'm not sure what happens, next game. I thought Axel Jonsson-Fjällby was noticeable, but I wonder if, Gus Bus goes back into the game on Sunday. I don't think they're going to keep, Gustafsson as a healthy scratch. Obviously, injuries are going to factor in because you've got Saku Manalainen. But anyways, the comment by Brian, I think, is very well made, that clearly this year, the Jets are using their fourth line much more, and the third line has been much more effective, even if Adam Lowry's in a bit of a goal-scoring drought. So, Brian, send me an email, Ezra, EZRA, @illegalcurve.com, and send me your mailing address. I should mention that, and Tough Duck will ship out a toque to you. You can also slide into my DMs. You see it right there, ICSEG. So you can slide into my DMs if that's your preferred method, and as I mentioned, you'll receive a Tough Duck too.
There you go. Brian Harder, congratulations. Brian says, thanks, guys. Brian's in the chat. We always like when guys and girls stick around and find out if they're the big winners. And it's not just Tough Duck toques we're giving away. We got to give away some Jets merch. And now, I guess the question is, for me or for you, since you came up with the unique code word, do you want to give the unique code word? Let's give the unique code word out first. Okay. Then we'll announce the winner. So for the unique code word, for everyone who was trying to guess and wasn't able to guess it from Ezzy's beautiful mind, tell everyone where you went with this one.
Okay, well, if you've listened to the show we're getting close to 14 years, by the way. February 2009 was our first ever show on, back then it was Red River College's Kick FM. So look out for that. A month from now will be officially our 14th anniversary. But anybody who's listened to the show knows I'm a huge wrestling guy. So that's where we went with the unique code word. You want to put it up there, Dave, or do you want me to say it here?
No, I'm going to put it up right now. I was so excited about Kenny's comment that I threw that one up there.
The unique code word is going to run wild on you. Let me put it that way.
Yes, let's go, Ezra.
There we go. Hulkamania, not Hulkamania.
I got worried for a second. I thought
Tampa
maybe I wrote the wrong name.
Hulk Hogan is, I don't know if he was born in Tampa Bay, but that's certainly his home, and he's got a bar there. So that's where we went for this one, Hulkamania.
What's Hulk Hogan's real name?
Terry Bollea.
That's correct. That is correct.
Well, I mean, you're talking about one of my idols, right? I mean, we're just a few years apart, Dave. But for me, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Bret Hart, like those are my guys, right? Well, I have to throw in Honky Tonk Man, obviously.
Well, first of all, you got it. You missed the most important one. Oh yeah. Macho Man, come on.
Oh yeah. Macho Man.
Macho
yeah.
Man was my favorite wrestler.
I didn't like how he treated Miss Elizabeth in real life, though. That's another whole thing, though.
Well, although I will say the Macho Man what is it, like, documentary is awesome. Like, it is.
I didn't know there
amazing.
was one. I'll watch
Oh,
that.
you got to watch it. It is amazing.
Yeah, love the elbow drop off the top rope. That was classic.
Well, I mean, nobody gave the flying elbow. Like, well, Jimmy the Snuka used to give
he was
a
a
good
splash. He would do the splash.
Didn't he do a flying elbow though? Or was it leaping Lanny Poffo? Leaping Lanny Poffo. I think he did a good, but nobody did a flying elbow like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Absolutely.
There's nobody like that guy. Ooh, yeah. I could do that all show. Let's just do a show of imitating our favorite wrestlers as. Anywho, big congratulations. You can be like Colton DeVos, who won the IC merch contest. Colton, way to go. I'm going to reach out to you, send you an email for your big win in the last show. I think actually Colton went and checked out the Illegal Curve TikTok. I think that's how Colton ended up winning. So be like Colton, go to the Illegal Curve TikTok, follow us, although you don't have to do that to win, but that helps, makes me happy. Leave a comment, that gets you bonus points. Enter the unique code word, Hulkamania, as he just gave it to you. And if you do that, you can be like Colton, and you can be an Illegal Curve merch winner, and you get authentic Jets gear, as you get t-shirts, you get hats, you get a jersey, lots of things to win, and of course, tickets to a Jets game of your choice if you are the grand prize winner for January. So that's pretty much it. As I don't think we've got more a show to do. I mean, we've got another show to do, in like 10 hours. So I think we probably shouldn't go too much longer. You had a procedure today, so I'm not going to.
There's a bag of frozen corn waiting for me in the freezer that I'm going to be applying. So yeah, it's going to be, I'll rest up a little bit. But as you mentioned, we're going to be back live. I've got Jason Bell, sports editor of the Free Press, coming on, and our really good friend Marty Biberon, Buffalo Sabres analyst. And of course, he does work for TSN. You saw him during the first intermission and the second intermission with John Liu. So yeah, it seems like, forever since I've done a Saturday show. It's really only been, 3 weeks, because December 17th was the last show I did, because of course you did the show with Big Rig Jim Toth with that great interview with Nolan Baumgartner that I actually still have to watch. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but anybody who hasn't watched it should watch it, because Dave told me Bomber was great. So yeah, it's good to get back in the saddle with the three of us on the Saturday morning mothership show.
Well, and but while we're doing this, I think that Frosty needs to get those sponsors up so people know who's going to be at Rumors this week. But I was going to say, not only are we going to have Jason Bell and Marty Biron, we're also going to have Marty Bird. So, but I'm not going to reveal that. So just be aware that we'll have a couple of Martys on the show tomorrow joining us on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. But this has been the Illegal Curve postgame show. And it's a big thank you to all of our sponsors of Illegal Curve who make this show, the postgame show, possible, along with the Saturday show and the website. They are Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, and Grid Park. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. And
sorry, first of all, I'm just going back about 4 or 5 minutes when we were talking about the unique code word Hulkamania.
Yeah.
I mean, Frosty is already a favorite of ours, but the fact that he just dropped the Macho Man cameo in Spider-Man in 2002. Remember when Peter Parker is in the wrestling match?
Yeah.
Against Macho Man. That's 21 years ago. That's an incredible drop. Anyways, good on you, Frosty, for bringing that one up.
Good on Frosty. Well, good on everybody in the chat for joining us, for spending your night with Ezzy and Dave, and for being part of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Smash that like button on the way out. And reminder that we will be going on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Of course, plenty more of Jets content coming your way. You can go join. I don't know if Kenny and Rennie, I didn't see anything from them saying that they're live. So if they're not live, well, then maybe you don't have somewhere to go, but you do. The home of illegalcurve.com, because we've got all the Jets, the latest Moose, Ice. We've got all that news on the website. So, hey, go over to illegalcurve.com. Check that out if you need to be updated. We'll have the post-game show, the post-game recap. You'll be able to download the podcast, or you can continue to watch the replay. Regardless of what you choose to do, thank you for choosing to spend your Friday night with Ezzy and Dave, or myself, I should say. I shouldn't speak about myself in that regard. But thank you for joining us on the Legal Curve Postgame Show. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning. Have a good rest of your evening, everyone.